Discover the miraculous power of divine prayer, 7 transforming secrets for incredible blessings. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the land of Judah lay parched beneath a relentless sun. Fields that once flourished with crops now stood barren, their bare earth cracked and dry, as the villagers of a small community in ancient Judea struggled with the torment of unprecedented drought. The once promising hills were now silent, fasting from the life-giving grace of rain. Even in the hearts of the villagers, a deep spiritual malaise festered, leaving them questioning their covenant with Yahweh. Amidst their despair lived Eliab, a humble farmer steeped in unwavering faith. He had dedicated his life to service under the Lord, often gathering the village to implore God for mercy and rain. Yet despite the fervent prayers that echoed in the twilight hours, the heavens remained closed, and hope dwindled like the parched grains of their harvest. Then, like a breath of fresh air, the apostle James arrived in their village, his presence a balm to troubled hearts. He came bearing incredible news of miracles and testimonies of healing, tales that ignited flames of faith long diminished in despair. Eliab felt a rekindled spark of purpose as James related how the prophet Elijah had fervently prayed for rain, challenging them to trust that prayer could again change their fate. The prayer of a righteous person has great power, James declared, echoing truths from the scriptures that resonated deep within Eliab's heart. The villagers, weary yet yearning for hope, gathered beneath the dimming sky, their faces illuminated by a flickering anticipation. Eliab encouraged them to hold hands, creating a circle bound by faith, united in their cries to the heavens. As the sun disappeared, casting shadows over their barren fields, prayers poured forth, confessions of doubt and grief interwoven with fervent pleas for forgiveness and restoration. I remember the story of Elijah, Eliab shared, infusing the congregation with a sense of urgency. He prayed earnestly, and the skies answered his prayers. Let us take heart and be bold. Doubt still lingered like the clouds that loomed in the distance, yet Eliab pressed on, urging them to fortify their faith, believing in the promise of God's word, resilient against the weight of their reality. Just then, a rumble of thunder rolled through the darkening sky, igniting flares of hope among the villagers. They sensed a shift, a stirring in the air that seemed to whisper of divine possibility. Eliab's heart quickened as he realized the power in their unity, their collective desires reaching toward the heavens. They could be part of something magnificent. As prayer enveloped them like a cocoon, skepticism began to rise among the elders. Will our sincere cries reach his ears? They murmured, questioning Eliab's leadership. Must we believe amidst such desolation? Eliab felt the weight of their doubts, but resolved to lead them in steadfast prayer, remembering the transformative secrets James had revealed. Before they parted that evening, Eliab sensed something profound was unfolding, a divine mystery still hidden within the brooding clouds. Just as he prepared to dismiss them, a flash of lightning fractured the sky, illuminating the congregation in a radiant glow. The air hummed with expectancy, leaving the villagers mystified by God's imminent work. What would come next? The uncertainty loomed, yet Eliab's heart thrummed with trust, anticipating the divine plan that would soon unveil. As they awaited the showers of renewal, praying earnestly into the night. As the night wore on, the atmosphere thickened with expectancy, while the villagers remained cloaked in fervent prayer, their voices rising to the heavens, as if woven together by an invisible thread of faith. Eliab stood at the center of the circle, his heart swelling with both trepidation and hope. The flickering of the torches cast shadows that danced like spirits, echoing their prayers of repentance and longing. Then, as the echoes of their cries mingled with the winds, a whispered breeze cut through the stillness. The villagers turned their faces upward, for they felt the beginnings of something extraordinary. Eliab, feeling an unshakable prompting, spoke again with renewed fervor, "Let us not grow weary, let us trust in the promise of the Lord, for he hears the cries of his faithful." At that moment, the clouds above rumbled again, louder now, as if the very heavens were vacillating on the verge of pouring forth blessings. Eliab raised his arms high, his voice unwavering, "O God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we beseech you. Remember your covenant, and shine your face upon your people for the sake of your great name." Suddenly, a clap of thunder startled the villagers, shaking their very souls. The ground trembled gently beneath their feet, as if the earth itself was responding to their prayers. Faith surged among them like a rushing river, diminishing their doubts, as Eliab encouraged them, "We are his chosen, let us not doubt his faithfulness." After what felt like an eternity, a faint drizzle began to fall, the droplets kissing the parched earth. At first, it was but a whisper of rain, teasing their hopes. Yet, as they remained steadfast in their prayers, the sound of a mighty wind crescendoed, heralding an answer to their petitions. "What is this?" an elder gasped, peering into the night sky. "A sign from the Lord," Eliab exclaimed, feeling the cool drops sprinkle his skin, each one a precious reminder of God's unwavering promise. The rain began in earnest, pouring down like a celestial waterfall. The villagers erupted in tears of joy, laughter mingling with the sound of the rain as they raised their hands to receive the deluge. Their faith had birthed the clouds, just as the prophet Elijah of old had done. They wept not just for the earth, but for the renewal of their spirits. Each drop was a healing balm, washing away their doubts and despair. Amidst the celebration, Eliab knelt to the ground, kissing the earth with gratitude. "We praise you, O Lord," he sang. "For we are vessels of your grace. You are our sustenance, even in our times of famine." As the villagers rejoiced, Eliab felt a stirring within himself, a prophetic sense weaving through his heart, prompting him. Something deeper lingered in the atmosphere, something that would propel them toward a purpose beyond mere physical salvation. The thunder rolled one last time, and Eliab sensed the full measure of God's plan unfolding. As a vision danced before his eyes, he heard the faint echo of a distant voice, an intrinsic calling that promised restoration not just of crops, but of hearts, a revival of faith that would ripple through the ages. In the thunderous silence that followed, Eliab rose, a new light igniting in his spirit. "What the Lord has begun in us, we shall not keep to ourselves," he declared. "For, behold, something even greater awaits us. This rain is but the beginning, his purpose stretches far beyond our understanding." And as the villagers gathered to listen, a far-off sound reverberated through the heavens, a whisper that surged with power. But what they did not yet conceive was the true depth of God's sovereign plan unfolding, for this was merely the dawn of his glorious awakening. With the rain still cascading from the heavens, the villagers stood in a blessed assembly, soaking in both the heavenly water and the rejoicing camaraderie of their hearts. Eliab looked into their faces, observing the tears mixing with the rain, each a testament to renewed hope. He grasped their hands, feeling the warmth of community pulsing through the circle, bolder than the raging storm around them. "Beloved people of God," Eliab declared, his voice rising over the roar of nature's chorus, "the Lord has shown us his favor. Let us remember his faithful acts of deliverance, even as recorded by our forebears. Like the Israelites who crossed the Red Sea, we too shall witness miracles, for our God is mighty to save." With every word, Eliab felt the weight of ages upon him, the promises spoken to their ancestors becoming a living reality among them. The villagers nodded, a sense of unity swelling with Eliab's proclamations, and soon a chorus of agreement arose, echoing through the downpour. Then, as if the heavens were holding their breath, a great calm settled, and the rains began to soften, turning into a gentle mist. In that moment, Eliab perceived the weight of an impending transformation, a new beginning enwrapped in divine promise. Suddenly, the ground beneath them quaked with subtle power. The earth began to shift as a powerful wind swept across the land, stirring dust and sent the joy of the people soaring. Eliab raised his hands toward the gathering clouds above. "O great God, show us your wonders anew. Let not the memory of this day fade from our hearts, but rather inscribe it upon our spirits." Just then, a rumbling noise echoed through the firmament, resounding like the footsteps of an ancient army, marching forth in unison. The villagers looked around, their eyes reflecting the mixture of awe and trepidation. What could this be? One whispered, grasping the arm of another. Eliab stepped forward, his heart racing in rhythm with the celestial cadence. "Fear not. For our God can be a consuming fire, but he also comes as a gentle whisper. Let us witness together what the Lord is about to unveil." Then, unexpectedly, from above emerged a bright light that broke through the dissipating clouds. It was not blinding, but rather illuminating, a sacred glow that enveloped Eliab, beckoning him closer toward its warmth. As he stood there, the light coalesced into a messenger, whose presence brought a hush over the people. Eliab, faithful servant, the voice purred like the sweetest symphony, you have stirred the heavens with your prayers. Thus says the Lord of hosts, your cries have reached my throne. Eliab's heart raced, knowing this was no mere coincidence. Speak, O Lord, for you have my attention. He implored, falling to his knees. The figure of radiance drew nearer and continued, the rain you receive is not solely for the land, but a foretaste of a great awakening among the nations. The seeds you sow today shall bear fruit not just in harvest, but in revival. With each word, anticipation surged through the assembly, as they murmured amongst themselves, revival. An echo of each footstep of promise resonated in their hearts. But be aware, the luminous figure cautioned, this awakening will come with trials, for the spirit of complacency lies deep upon the hearts of men. Prepare yourselves, for through you shall I reveal my glory. Eliab's gaze bore into the heart of the messenger. What will we need, O Lord? Continue to seek me diligently, remain faithful to my word, and bear witness to my mighty deeds, came the profound reply. For I am preparing you for a purpose that surpasses your understanding. As the light began to dissipate, the villagers remained frozen in a tableau of wonder. Eliab rose, his spirit ignited with divine purpose. You hear that? He shouted, his voice echoing across the field, faith is rising. Prepare your hearts and open your eyes, something greater is on the horizon. In the remnants of divine brilliance, the group simmered with an insatiable hunger for more. For what they could not yet see was that this was just the beginning of God's masterful orchestration, and ahead lay a path shrouded in mystery, waiting to unfold. The true depth of his plan beckoned them, and they awakened to the reality that they were at the cusp of a journey beyond the very rain that fell upon them, into the heart of a supernatural revival. As the mist from the heavens settled delicately upon the village, the sun began to pierce through clouds, casting a golden hue upon the soaked earth. Eliab stood among his people, a pulse of expectancy thrumming through him as he felt the lingering presence of the divine messenger. We have been chosen, my friends, he proclaimed, a fervor igniting in his heart. Our God is moving, let us be alert. The villagers stood, not merely as spectators, but as participants in a divine narrative unfolding before their very eyes. Each heart stirred with the deep calling to engage with the great purpose set before them, as if the whispers of the Almighty were woven into the very fabric of their spirits. We must gather our families and call upon the Lord together. Eliab urged. Let us convene in prayer, for the Spirit has promised us revival. At this, they aligned their resolve, forming smaller groups, hands held high in faith, voices soaring as one, lifting praises and supplications to their God. The sound of their collective prayers rose into the sky, spiraling like incense, reaching the throne of grace. Days turned into nights, and in that sacred time, their petitions echoed against the heavens. Lord, prepare our hearts. Show us the path to your glory. Awaken our neighbors. The cries resounded with a passion reminiscent of Paul's exhortation to pray without ceasing, 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 17, through the days and nights, they witnessed signs as the fields, once parched and cracked, began to flourish anew under the nourishment of the rain, a vivid symbol of God's favor over his people. Look! A child shouted one morning, pointing to a blossoming tree. It bears fruit. Indeed, the barren branches were now adorned with vibrant blossoms, fragrant and sweet, a clear testimony of transformed lives. The villagers rejoiced, their hearts aligned with David's declaration in Psalm 126, when the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dream. They saw visions of streams in the desert, a flourishing nation rooted in faith connected to the living God, yet, amidst this swelling joy, Eliab sensed a shadow looming, an undercurrent of unease threatening the community. For in the quiet moments of prayer, he remembered the words of the radiant messenger, this awakening will come with trials. He called the villagers back, gathering them once more under the great oak tree at the village center. Beloved, as we receive his blessings, let us also prepare ourselves for the tests ahead. Remember the trials of Joseph, who sought favor but endured betrayal, and David, who faced giants before becoming king. His voice bore the weight of wisdom steeped in Scripture, echoing the truth that trials serve as gold refined by fire. 1 Peter 1 verse 7, the somber truth settled among them. Revival can lead to resistance. Eliab urged them to hold fast to their faith and to support one another in unity, for the strength of the body would be their shield against the oncoming storms. And while the sun cast its blessings upon the village, Eliab glanced upwards, eyes searching the skies for further revelations. "What then must we do, O Lord?" he murmured quietly to himself, acknowledging the ever-present mystery of God's plan that lay unfurling in an intricate tapestry beyond their grasp. As the villagers prepared for the days ahead, their hearts entwined in hope and vigilance, a lingering question tethered to their souls, echoing in the shadows: what greater wonders await us through the trials to come? The fabric of divine promise was weaving through their lives, threads of faith intertwining with the call for boldness and endurance. In that sacred moment, Eliab understood they were not merely a village waiting for revival, they were a people set on the precipice of a greater story, one that would reveal the depth of God's sovereign plan, shrouded in the mystery of his unfathomable love. The time for the revealing draws nigh. Eliab pondered with unwavering faith, sensing a divine orchestration waiting on the horizon. As the villagers gathered once more, a palpable tension filled the air. Eliab stood before them, his heart burdened yet emboldened by the Spirit. "Dear ones," he began, his voice steady yet laced with urgency. "As we have cried out in prayer to our God, did we not sense the tides shifting?" The faces of the people reflected a mix of anticipation and apprehension, echoing the age-old struggle of faith amid uncertainty. At this moment, a figure approached, an elder known for his wisdom, Zimri, the keeper of the village scrolls. His presence commanded attention, and as he spoke, the air thickened with reverence. "Eliab, do you not recall the words of the prophet Isaiah? When the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will raise up a standard against him." Isaiah 59 verse 19. With these words, a collective stirring resonated in the hearts of the villagers. "Yes. We must stand firm." They cried out, emboldened by the promise that though trials may arise, the Lord would not forsake his people. Eliab felt a renewal of strength in their unity, an unwavering bond forged by shared prayer and faith. But as the sun began to sink towards the horizon, casting long shadows, Eliab's mind was ensnared by the very trials he warned them about. Whispers of doubt darted like thorns amongst the fertile soil of hope. What might these trials entail? Will our faith withstand the coming storm? He thought, with a growing resolve to prepare his people for what lay ahead. Then, as if answering his silent dread, a sudden wind swept through the village, stirring the leaves into a frantic dance. The villagers looked up in awe, and Eliab, with a deep breath, raised his arms towards the heavens. "Father, reveal your will. Let us be ready," he pleaded. In his spirit, he sensed a stirring, a divine preparation for what was to come. That very night, as the stars began to sprinkle the velvet sky, Eliab called for another gathering. The villagers, eager yet anxious, came together in the sacredness of nightfall, bearing candles that flickered like their faltering questions. "Let our light shine in the darkness," Eliab proclaimed, his voice rising above the whispered fears. As they began to pray, one by one, testimonies poured forth. "I have seen his hand at work in my life." A mother rejoiced. "Even in difficulty, he is near," proclaimed another, the weight of despair lifting like the morning mist around them. Each declaration was a stone of remembrance, anchoring their faith to God's faithfulness. Yet, as their prayers ascended, Eliab felt a deep burden, a weight not just of their collective hopes, but of an underlying reality. Suddenly, he remembered the words of John, "In this world you will have trouble. But take heart. I have overcome the world." John 16 verse 33. It dawned on him that the trials they anticipated were not mere obstacles, but vehicles for growth and testimonies of God's glorious power. Just then, the atmosphere shifted, a hesitating hush fell upon them. From a corner of the gathering, an elder woman stood, her voice trembling yet resolute. "Have we not witnessed his miracles before? Are we not a people of promise? The Lord will fight for us. Her words echoed in their hearts, igniting a flame of conviction as they remembered the victories of their ancestors, Moses parting the sea, Joshua's triumph at Jericho. Eliab felt the atmosphere charged with divine expectancy as hope pierced through doubt. Friends, the trials ahead are not for our defeat, but for our redemption. Let us prepare our hearts, not in fear, but in faith. His words were met with fervent agreement as the villagers roared a chorus of determination, and within that sacred moment, Eliab's heart was set alight with newfound purpose. For surely, as a people called to revival, we must embrace the trials as part of our testimony. We stand at the threshold of a divine narrative, woven with pain and glory. As they concluded in prayer and reconciliation, the stars above twinkled like promises unfulfilled, and Eliab knew a powerful revelation awaited them. He turned his gaze skyward, the impending night pregnant with mystery. What greater miracles lie ahead, hidden in the chambers of our faith? Indeed, the Lord's sovereign plan was drawing nearer, like the dawn after the longest night. The fullness of his purpose would soon break forth, transforming both them and the generations to come. And it came to pass that as the evening deepened and the flames of their candles flickered gently, Eliab felt an urgency rising within him, a soundless call from deep within his spirit. Let us not be mere spectators in the face of adversity, but warriors in prayer. He declared, and the people nodded with fervent agreement, their eyes lit with a zealous glow. At that moment, the winds began to swirl once more, as if the heavens themselves were responding to their cries. It rustled the branches above, invoking memories of old when the voice of the Lord spoke through the whirlwind. Eliab sensed that something profound was about to unfold, a revelation was pending, held back like the clouds before the rain. Gather close, my brethren, Eliab urged, his voice earnest and commanding. Let us intercede for one another and for our land, for we know that God has shaped the mountains and formed the seas. Our supplications are not in vain. With hands joined, they formed a circle, a community bound by faith, ready to stand against the looming fears. Eliab led them in prayer, invoking the majestic name of the Almighty. O God of Jacob, who has promised to be our refuge and strength, hear our petitions. Shield us with your mighty hand, for the days ahead are uncertain, but our trust is steadfast. As their voices rose in unison, an overwhelming peace began to envelop the gathering. Eliab's heart swelled with hope, and he was reminded of Psalm 46 verse 1, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. His faith soared as the Spirit surged within him, attuning his heart to the heartbeat of God. Then, midst their fervor, a soft yet powerful whisper broke through the tumult of their prayers. It came not from man but was perceived deep in the recesses of Eliab's soul. Prepare, for I will move among you, it said. Your trials shall yield fruit, and the increase of your faith shall be as the harvest of plentiful grain. He opened his eyes, and the villagers did likewise, sensing that something extraordinary was at hand. Zimri, observing Eliab's countenance, leaned closer. What has the Lord revealed unto you? He inquired with both wisdom and curiosity. In the silence of our supplications, I feel his presence thick around us, Eliab replied solemnly. He bids us to prepare our hearts, for we shall witness his glory through our trials. Like the refiner's fire, we will be purified and made strong. A murmur of agreement rolled through the assembly. Shall we not then heed his call? Asked the elder woman who had spoken before, her voice filled with conviction. With lit faces reflecting hearts united, they echoed, we shall stand together. As if compelled by divine intention, Eliab declared, let this be our covenant, we will cry out in prayer and praise, and we will seek his face as we face the storms to come. Thus, with hands lifted high, they began to sing a song of deliverance, invoking the faithfulness of the Lord through generations, drawing from the wellspring of hope ignited within them. Suddenly, a rumbling sound echoed in the distance, a foreboding but also an expectant signal of what was set to unfold. Eliab paused, sensing the weight of a prophetic moment. Let not our hearts be troubled, he proclaimed. This rumbling could be the onset of a divine manifestation. Yet, even as they sang with all fervor, doubts crept at the fringes of their minds. What would this manifestation entail? Would they be prepared for the trials that divine intervention might bring? Eliab could feel the tension, a divine suspense hanging in the air like the promise of rain before the storm. In their unity, Eliab could see a flicker of something greater, a celestial thread weaving through their very souls, drawing them closer to an unforgettable encounter. Wait for the Lord, he reminded them, invoking Psalm 27 verse 14. Be strong, and let your heart take courage, yes, wait for the Lord. Thus, with lifted spirits overflowing with anticipation and uncertainty mingling with faith, they prayed on into the night, each seeking clarity and strength. For amidst the whispers of doubt and the promises of hope, they were all enveloped in the sacred mystery of God's divine purpose unfolding before them. As the night deepened, Eliab pondered, what would the Lord reveal next? What deeper workings of his sovereign plan lay hidden, yet magnetically drawing us closer to him? The mysteries of his timing loomed heavy like the awaiting dawn, unseen, but palpably near. And it came to pass that as the winds howled with a fervor that matched the prayers of Eliab and the people, the ground beneath them trembled, as if the earth were in attendance to the divine assembly. It was a trembling that reflected not fear, but an awakening, a stirring of the spirit that promised something extraordinary. Eliab, feeling the vibrations, turned his gaze heavenward. O Lord! He cried, let your will be done among us. Let our hearts align with the purposes of your sovereign hand. His voice echoed through the night, a battle cry beckoning heaven to respond to their earnest plea. The villagers, emboldened by Eliab's fervor, redoubled their prayers, voices blending into a powerful chorus that filled the air with expectancy. They prayed not just for deliverance but for clarity to understand the purpose behind the trials set before them. Lo, though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we will fear no evil, one among them recited boldly, drawing strength from the words of Psalm 23:4. And then it happened, an unraveling of the heavens. A brilliant light pierced the dark veil of night, illuminating the humble assembly that had gathered upon the land. Eliab shielded his eyes, beholding the visage of glory that began to unfurl before them. Behold! The Lord is in this place! He exclaimed, the weight of the moment pressing upon his heart, filling him with awe and reverence. From the radiant light emerged a figure, cloaked in divine majesty, the angel of the Lord. The villagers fell to their faces, trembling with a mix of reverence and fear, yet Eliab found strength in the heavenly presence. Fear not! The angel declared, his voice a thundering yet soothing tide. For I bring you tidings of great joy. Your prayers have ascended like fragrant incense before the throne of the Almighty. With breathless anticipation, Eliab rose, courage swelling in his spirit. What shall we do, Lord? He sought to understand, eager for the revelation that lay within the divine plan. What is the message of our God? The angel continued unperturbed, the Lord has seen your hardship and heard your cries. He has not forgotten his covenant, for his faithfulness endures to all generations. A trial is near, but through it, you shall grow, through the fires of affliction, your faith shall be refined. Do not fear what is set before you, for your God will lead you like a shepherd. The assembly gasped, the truth penetrating their hearts as they listened to the instructions that unfolded with the angel's words. Prepare yourself, O Eliab, for you are to be a leader of this people. You will guide them through the coming storm and into the light of his promises. Eliab felt the weight of the charge settle upon him, yet a profound peace wrapped around his spirit like a cloak. Lord, I surrender my will to your guidance, he affirmed. His heart reflected the wisdom of Proverbs 3 verses 5-6, trusting in the Lord's way, acknowledging him in all his paths. In that divine moment, unity surged within the gathered congregation, their hearts aligned in purpose and devotion. They resolved to remain steadfast, to unite in prayer and worship, knowing that they were participants in the unfolding story of the Lord's redemptive work. As the angel faded into the light, the wind ceased, replaced by a profound stillness that echoed the promise of what's to come. Eliab's heart thudded in his chest, filled with determination and hope. Such grace has been bestowed upon us, he said softly, looking around at the faces lit by newfound resolve. Let us equip ourselves for battle, leaning on the strength of the Lord as David did when he faced Goliath. The villagers nodded, hearts igniting anew with the courage of God's sovereign purpose. Yet, amidst their fervent praise, Eliab sensed the weight of deeper mysteries still enveloping them, reminding him that while their hearts were stirred, the greatest revelations were yet to come. Would they be ready to face all that the Lord would orchestrate next? Prepare, for soon you shall see the glory of the Lord revealed in your midst, Eliab declared, faith alight in his heart. The heavens prepared to unveil an even grander tapestry of his purpose, and the dawn was yet to break upon their journey, each step ordained by his eternal hand, and thus, the village stood unified in faith, poised at the brink of divine revelation, silent witnesses to the unfolding tapestry of God's sovereign plan intricately woven into their lives, waiting for the moment when heaven and earth would collide in miraculous power once more. As the dawn broke with a soft blush over the horizon, the villagers stirred, awash with a holy anticipation. Eliab, fueled by the angel's words, rose early, directing his gaze upwards, where the morning sky seemed to shimmer with the promise of the Lord. This day shall not be like any other, he whispered to himself, feeling the weight of divine purpose settle upon his shoulders once more. Gathering the villagers, Eliab spoke with a voice imbued with authority and tenderness. Beloved people, let us gather our hearts in prayerful unity, he said, beckoning them to kneel before the Almighty. They formed a circle, a hedge of faith where prayers rose like sweet incense. The words of Psalm 91 washed over them, affirming their trust in the Most High. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. As they prayed, Eliab's spirit began to stir with visions of what was to come. He recalled the stories of old, the parting of the Red Sea, the great battles of Joshua, and David's mighty exploits. The Lord is our banner. He will fight for us, just as he did for our fathers, he proclaimed, invoking the courageous victories of their ancestors to ignite courage in their own hearts. Amidst their fervent supplications, a sense of urgency filled the air. An inclination settled within Eliab, one that testified to the approaching trials foretold by the angel. His heart remained heavy, but he understood that in their affliction lay the seeds of transformation. Our faith shall be our shield, and his word our sword, he affirmed, feeling renewed strength. Suddenly, a distant sound echoed across the valley, the thunderous rumble of hooves striking the earth. Eliab peered into the distance, and the villagers fell silent, focused on the dust rising like a dark cloud. What manner of threat approaches? One cried. Eliab's heart quickened, his courage stirring. Fear not. Stand firm in faith. The Lord takes account of all who align with his purpose. As the figures drew closer, Eliab recognized the banners they bore, emblazoned with the insignia of pressing foes. The enemy had come to wage war against them. Raise your countenance, our God is our refuge. Eliab shouted, lifting his staff. Remember the words, the battle is not yours, but God's, 2 Chronicles 20 verse 15. The villagers, galvanized by Eliab's exhortation, began to call upon the Lord with fervor, crying out for strength and protection. Their voices rose in a crescendo, echoing the cries of ancient warriors. Eliab felt the palpable intensity of their prayers surge like a roaring river, and he understood that in this moment, they were not merely uniting for their own deliverance, but tapping into the very power of heaven. Then came a splendor beyond imagination. As they prayed, the skies darkened, and a mighty wind swept through the valley, carrying with it the whispers of angels. Eliab, eyes focused upon the heavens, sensed a transition, a shift announcing the sovereign instincts of God. Let us not lose heart, dear brethren, he called out, sensing the moment culminate. For God has prepared a table before us in the presence of our enemies. He, the great deliverer, shall make a display of his glory among us. Yet, amidst the fervent prayer and declarations, Eliab sensed a deeper whisper tugging on his spirit, a mystery hidden just beyond the veil of understanding. There was more to be revealed, a plan that transcended even their imaginations. What triumph lay ahead? What trials would temper their faith? As light glinted off the approaching foes, casting shadows across the trembling ground, Eliab declared, "We shall witness the might of our God, but brace yourselves, for his ways are higher than our ways." Isaiah 55 verse 9. Prepared are we not only for battle but for the revelations of his unfolding purpose. Thus, they stood resolute, awaiting the collision of faith and divine might, unaware that the true depth of God's sovereign plan was about to be unveiled in ways they could scarcely comprehend. The dawn heralded not merely an encounter but a transformative journey that would carve their destinies in the annals of his eternal story. As the dust settled in the valley, a tension thick like morning mist hung in the air, and Eliab's heart trembled with the weight of his impending role. His eyes surveyed the faces before him, fear-stricken yet resolute, a blend of hope and anxiety knit together by the threads of shared faith. "Hold fast, brethren," he urged, his voice steady despite the chaos encroaching around them. "Let us proclaim our trust in the Lord. For as it is written, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto your own understanding." Proverbs 3 verse 5. Let us remember that our eyes must be fixed not on the might of our foes but upon his unfathomable strength. The villagers, emboldened by Eliab's words, raised their voices in unison. "O Lord, our strength, in whom we place our hope. Arise to our aid." Each cry pierced the heavens, a melody of desperation mingled with determination, echoing through the valley like the sound of a great army. Meanwhile, the advancing enemy, their silhouettes dark against the brightening sky, threatened to overshadow the villagers' vibrant hope. Eliab gazed at them, the cunning resolve in their faces a stark reminder of the battle that loomed. Yet amid this sight, Eliab felt a tremor of divine assurance enveloping him like a warm mantle. "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Ephesians 6 verse 12, he reminded himself. Just then, from the shadows of uncertainty, a voice arose amongst the warriors. It was Miriam, Eliab's sister, filled with the fire of the Spirit. "Eliab," she breathed, a radiance in her eyes, "let us draw on the heritage of our ancestors. Do you not recall the victory of Gideon? How he faced overwhelming odds with but 300 men and the shouts of those who trusted the Lord." A fire sparked in Eliab's spirit, ignited by her courage. "Yes, Miriam. And remember how David, a mere shepherd, felled Goliath with a sling and a stone. The Lord uses the weak things of the world to confound the wise." 1 Corinthians 1 verse 27. The villagers' faith began to surge like a tide. Murmurs of ancient triumphs echoed among them. The enemy drew nearer, a fierce visage now revealed in the morning light. Eliab sensed the cool of fear threatening to creep back upon him, but he pressed down upon it, determined to rise higher. "Rally to me, faithful people!" he shouted, lifting his staff to the heavens in an act of surrender and devotion. "Let us not succumb to our minds' doubts, for the Lord our God fights for us." And so they stood together, a single body of faith, hands lifted and hearts aligned. Eliab declared, "Let us recount the mighty deeds of the Lord. With his right hand and his holy arm, he hath gotten us the victory." Psalm 98 verse 1. Their voices entwined in fervent prayer, igniting the very heavens with their supplications. Then, just as hope swelled to its peak, a sound pierced the air, the clash of iron and the booming voice of the enemy heralding their challenge. "Surrender now or face your doom," they cried, taunting. Yet the sound of their threats only reinvigorated the spirit of the villagers. Eliab, sensing the Lord's presence among them, declared, "We shall not be moved. For our God is a consuming fire, and in him is our confidence, our Savior, our Deliverer." As they pressed into prayer, an ethereal glow enveloped the valley, and Eliab felt the divine whisper beckoning his heart. "But behold, what if your greatest trial is not merely the battle before you, but the call to something greater beyond it?" Eliab's thoughts raced. What might the Lord be preparing not only for them but through them? Thus, even as the tumult of war approached, another confrontation loomed on the horizon, not just with their enemies, but with destiny itself, as God's sovereign plan began to unfurl, promising revelations greater than they had ever desired. The sacred weight of anticipation gripped Eliab once more, drawing him deeper into the mystery of faith, where victory was not only found in battle, but in the divine design woven through their strife. And so it was that the villagers stood, hearts pounding like a war drum, united in unwavering faith as they faced the encroaching chaos. Eliab, emboldened by the Spirit, raised his voice above the storm of uncertainties. "Behold, "Our God is with us. He shall never leave nor forsake us. The Lord will not let us be put to shame." The enemy advanced, shadows reaching for the light, yet Eliab sensed the weight of hope pressing down upon him. He turned to the assembly, their faces filled with determination, each one fortified by the story of God's past deliverance. "Remember the miracles of our forebears. For it is written, they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." Revelation 12 verse 11, he cried, his spirit alight with divine conviction. A surge of emotions flooded through the crowd, knowing they were not merely spectators but participants in God's unfolding story. Suddenly, a thunderous roar erupted from the heavens above, an assurance that echoed through their beings. Eliab felt the electricity of divine presence coursing through the gathering, igniting a fervor in those assembled. "Lift your voices and proclaim his greatness. Let every soul resound with the truth of his faithfulness." With one accord, they thundered forth in praise, declaring aloud the might of their God. "O Lord of hosts, fight for us. We trust not in chariots or horses, but in the name of the Lord our God." The sound of their worship pierced through the darkness, a clarion call of victory that rose high above their fears, transforming apprehension into an unshakable resolve. As their prayers intensified, Eliab felt a shift of palpable energy enveloping the field, where the forces of heaven and earth collided. The enemy faltered, caught off guard by the fervent devotion swirling around them, as if the very air began to tremble with divine promise. In that moment, Eliab turned his gaze up to the heavens once more, his heart swelling in belief. "O Lord," he breathed, "as you were with Joshua at Jericho, let the walls of fear crumble today before us." And, lo and behold! What began as murmurings of wind transformed into a deafening roar, a sound mighty like rushing waters, cascading forth from the throne of grace. The enemy staggered, their confidence shaken by the undying faith that coalesced with the thunder of heaven. Eliab gripped his staff, firm in purpose, as he declared, "Let us march forth without fear. For the Lord goes before us and fights our battles." As the villagers advanced, they feel the ground quaking beneath them, a clear heralding of God's presence in their midst. Each step they took resonated with the heartbeat of eternity, the very air thick with God's promises unveiled. "Now is the time to stand firm," Eliab called out, reaching for his sister Miriam, who stood bravely at his side. "Together, let us declare the truth of his word." And thus, they linked arms, creating a chain of faith undaunted by the turmoil surrounding them. "O enemy, hear us. For we are a people called by his name. We shall not be moved." In the heart of their fervor, Eliab sensed the sacred unfolding of God's plan, an intricate tapestry woven not just for their victory, but for the imprints they would leave upon generations to come. "Hearts turned toward the heavens shall receive his guidance," he proclaimed, feeling a hum of assurance as the forces of God swirled around them. Then suddenly, the mighty wind rose fiercely, scattering the shadows of doubt like leaves in a storm, drowning out the enemy's cries. "The time of deliverance is upon us," Eliab shouted as the skies opened above, revealing brilliant beams of sunlight that poured down like fiery gold. All at once, from the depths of the gathering came forth a spirit of unity, singing praises that crescendoed into a beautiful symphony, piercing through the clouds with a clarity that echoed throughout the land. "Great is thy faithfulness, O God!" resounded the chorus, washing over them and enveloping their hearts in a powerful wave of divine assurance. In the midst of cascading glory, Eliab stood steadfast. No longer merely a farmer, he had become a conduit of God's miraculous intervention. This day marks a turning point. He declared boldly, pressing forward as a tangible manifestation of hope and faith instinctively drew the villagers together. "Prepare yourselves. For the Lord will reveal himself as a radiant light in the darkness, and the victory shall be ours." And as his words faded into the air, the fierce Spirit of God descended, and blessed rain began to fall anew, an abundant outpouring washing over the village, a promise fulfilled reflected in the smiles and praises that lit the faces of the gathered people. Eliab knelt in humility, overwhelmed by the hand of wonder that orchestrated the scene with precision and love. "We thank you, O Lord," he whispered, tears mingling with the rain, each drop steeped in gratitude. You have answered our cries and shown your faithfulness once again. As the victorious cries of the villagers echoed into the heavens, they sensed that this was not merely an end, but the beginning of a grand narrative intertwined with God's redemptive plans. The rains washed away their doubts and fears, and from that day forth, they became seekers of His face, warriors of prayer, declaring the testimony of God's miracles to generations, serving as a beacon of hope for all who would hear their tale. The sun shone brightly down upon the land, illuminating their promise and purpose. A new day had dawned. Eliab, with his heart aligned with the divine, envisioned the future a movement sparked through unity and prayer that would change their village and reach far beyond their borders. Thus, they became a people of unwavering faith, held steadfast by the blood of the Lamb, their lives lovingly inscribed in the annals of God's eternal story. With tears of joy and laughter mingling together, they marched forward, fueled and transformed, knowing they were part of an expansive revival that was just beginning. And let it be known that faith rises not from serene circumstances but flourishes amidst trials, for the power of prayer transcends the earthly realm, inviting heaven's glory to transform hearts, minds, and lives forever. Let their legacy echo through time, a testament of a people set abuzz with divine purpose and God's miraculous might. Now, dear friends, you need to subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories unfolding. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, ensuring more souls encounter His life-changing message. Comment below, sharing your spiritual reflections and how this biblical story has impacted your faith. And don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth like never before.